Back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast. Today, we are talking about turning setbacks into comebacks, both professionally and personally. And I have the most perfect guest to come on and talk about this today. So let's jump into our episode. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the slightly unhinged marketing podcast for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, also known as the Pixel Wizard, and my goal is to tackle the tough stuff that goes in behind the scenes in marketing and offer actionable tips, creative insights, and a little bit of humor to spark some creativity. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. So our special guest is none other than Abby Cornelius. She is the Director of Sales at Stanley Martin Homes. She's a keynote speaker. She does all the things. She has an amazing podcast. And she's a working mom, which I love. So Abby, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, Sarah.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get here? Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, where did it all begin? So I'm one of those very rare people who's doing the same job or the same industry since college. So when I was in college, my cousin was actually selling homes and making a ton of money circa 2005. And she was like, you need to get into this. Don't go into finance. So I was a finance major. I was planning on sitting in a cubicle somewhere crunching numbers. And I gave it a whirl. I did a summer internship and then I just stayed in it and fell in love with home building. And through trials and tribulations, worked my way up the corporate ladder and find myself now as a director of sales, but taking a lot of journeys along the way and really facing setbacks, which happens a lot when you're in your career and you're trying to grow, but still able to make that progress. And now I'm in a position where I feel very committed to paying it forward. So many people invested in me and helping me get where I am today. And so my platform with my podcast and speaking is all about helping other people maybe get through it faster and get through it easier. So that's the mission that I'm on now.
I love it. I've been following you on LinkedIn and with your podcast and everything for a while. And I think you do amazing things. And I love this topic about like setbacks and comebacks. And you talk about joy and just the whole gamut of building a career, basically. And I always identified with you and the like whole working mom thing too, because I think one of the things about having these careers is there's so many things that we put on ourselves and that other people expect.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those kind of people that I feel like I can just have it all and I want it all. I want to talk about that today, but I want to get into this setbacks to comebacks topic that you've been talking about. Tell me about that. Like, how did that kind of start as like your main topic? And like when you're like looking back on your experiences and stuff, how do you know that these moments were happening?
Yeah. So I found myself repeating this phrase to women that I was coaching and just women in my circle that when life throws us curveballs, in that moment, we don't really get it, right? It's devastating, it's upsetting, I say it's this wasn't the plan moments where we're just stopped in our tracks and we're like, what the heck? This isn't what was supposed to happen. And in the moment, it's really hard to see how is this going to play out, right? Because we don't have hindsight yet. But thankfully, now 10, 20 years down the road from some of these obstacles that I've faced, I get it now. And
Mhm.
really, those moments served me so well in setting me up for whatever was next, whatever was to come. And so I think it's a matter of how we face those setbacks and if we truly let them bring us down, if we let them be an excuse why we can't, why we won't, why we never will, because that's easy to do, right? That's easy to say, oh my gosh, like my boss said, and I had this happen. I had a boss one time, like a boss's boss, if you will. So really the ultimate decision maker. She said I'd never be a leader under her like region. And I could have just said, oh, all right, I guess I'm never going to be a leader. Like she doesn't see potential in me, but instead it fueled something in me, right? A little bit of, oh, let me show you, but also a determination that it was important to me to fight for it. But in
Mhm.
that moment, it felt really defeating. And I call these
Mhm.
moments in life your slingshot moments. They're moments that they pull you back, pressure builds just like a slingshot, But if you do aim and if you do use that pressure as, not to be geeky, but the potential energy that it is in a slingshot, and you really aim, let the pressure build, and then let go at the right time and take that action, it is going to help you soar. It's going to take you from a setback to a comeback. But you have to see it as that. You have to have that optimism, which is basically it's the gift that you get in hindsight, but you carry it early. You have to know that this is going to turn out okay. And there's some lesson in here, just haven't seen it yet. And just continue to take those steps forward to get to the comeback.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is these mental shifts that we have to make. It's mostly always mental, at least for me. But I love that you're making it like a method, like you have like steps to follow, because that's also, it feels so overwhelming when you're in those moments. You're like,
Yeah.
everything sucks, everything's falling apart. What
Yeah.
do I do? And there's like this moment of paralyzation every time for me.
Yeah. That's what happens, right? Like our body goes into fight, flight, or freeze when we're in stressful
Mhm.
moments. And I know you and I were at a retreat together, and the Michelle teaches us about breathing, and she
Yep.
really digs into this for us. And I started noticing I do all three depending on the situation. So if somebody questions like my worth or my idea, I fight. If I'm overworking, I just shut down and I just like totally fall apart.
Yep. I've been
And so we
there.
all have these different things. So it just depends on what's happening, but acknowledge it, right? If you're like, oh my gosh, I just totally freeze. Okay, then that's your response. And you're in a situation where it's time to initiate what I'm coining my slingshot method to help you go from that setback to wherever you're trying to get next.
Yeah. So one of the things that I definitely do is in those moments, like the initial is I'm mad about it. I'm like, ugh. I'm like, I feel like I need to fight. And then I think sometimes I try to bounce back too quickly. I'm like, I just got to do all of the things to try to get back to where I want to be or get back onto my goals. I'm always reminding myself, like, you got to give yourself grace, like to go through this. But how do you balance that and making sure that you're moving forward in the right timing?
Yeah. So, ironically, the first step of the slingshot method is the letter S, which is take a step back. So, it's the
Mm.
right thing to pause because we are going to be agitated. We are going to be in that like nervous system overload. We are going to want to call our friend and say, we're getting margaritas. I want to bitch about my boss, right? We're going to do these things because it's
Yeah.
human nature. And so my husband and I have a rule because I tend to process by talking.
Yep.
So he
Same.
instituted the rule of if it's not going to matter in 5 years, you don't get more than 5 minutes. So I think it's healthy to vent, to have somebody to vent to. You just need to be careful who that person is. And are they going to let you stay there or are they going to let you just get it out and help you move forward? So that's like step one is take the breath, get the crazy out of your head because spiraling up here is never healthy, right? So talk to somebody about it. And then determine how long do I have to stay back out of this situation before I take my next step forward. And that can depend on a variety of things. I ended up leaving corporate. I stayed out of corporate for 2.5 years before I went back. And I needed every single day of that 2.5 years for me to figure out how I was going to do this again and do it differently and do it the right way. So I don't think there's a timeline on there. I think this is where we need to become really good at listening to our gut and making sure, am I taking a next step out of fear or
Mm.
am I taking that next step because it feels like a hell yes and this is the right thing for me to do? And too often when we're rushing and we're trying to struggle to a solution, it's fear-based. I don't want to lose my job,
Yeah.
or what if this never happens, or we're going to be broke if this doesn't happen. And we're fear-based action where you really want to try to check that and make sure it's not fear-based action.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that when I feel like I'm bouncing back too quickly, it's definitely out of fear. I'm like, but I have to do something. So
Yeah.
that pause is really difficult sometimes, like actually
Yeah.
stopping yourself and being like, it's okay to take a year
Yeah.
to recover from this or whatever.
I think too, there's a lot of ego along with it. Like there's just I should be doing this or I can't do this. And I can't tell you how many women I've talked to even recently that have taken time off of work or time to explore a passion project or something along those lines. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you need to do what's right for you and you need to take as much time as you can, obviously and financially, right? I'm not telling anybody to go quit your job and do anything crazy like
Yeah.
that. But you need to do
Yeah.
what's right for you and it doesn't really matter what anybody else's perception of that thing is because you can live your entire life doing what you think you're supposed to do for everybody else, and nobody actually cares. And then you just wake up unhappy one day because you've been living somebody else's dream, somebody else's path, where it takes the crazy and the bold to inspire others to be crazy and bold. And it's okay. We each get the opportunity to carve our own path. And how beautiful is that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because my husband, he took a summer off of his job and I encouraged him. I was like, you're just really stressed out, you're depressed, like you need to like just give yourself a moment to just get back to you. And I was so supportive of him doing that. And then in the same like situations where people have been like, you need to take a month off or you need to take some time, I'm like, I could never. I would never do that. And it's like I give this advice to other people and
Yeah.
then I know it's right, but like I don't give myself permission to do the
Yeah.
same exact thing that
Yeah.
would be good for me.
Yeah. One of the things that I found was really interesting when I left the corporate world the first time, I was really worried about how my dad was going to feel about that because my dad was the corporate climber. He went from driving trucks to the COO of a transportation company. And I always felt like I was a daddy's girl following in his footsteps, where my mom was more entrepreneurial. And I was so worried that he was going to be like, I don't know, have something to say about it or just like maybe a little disappointed. And he was like, I'm just so proud of you. Like for you to do something that I could never do because he stayed out of fear, right? Like he had to provide for the family or he didn't want to risk that financial stability for us. And he wanted to do that so that my mom could take a little bit more risk in her business. And I think that one of the things I realized in that is I had this fear that like my dad would give me anything but encouragement for some reason, which is crazy because he's super supportive dad. But in that moment, I was like, I've got to start talking to myself like I would talk to my kids. Because if my daughters were like, I want to do this crazy thing, I would be like, all right, how are we gonna make it work? You should
Yeah.
absolutely do it. If it's not working for you, if you're not happy, if you're not sure you're on the right path, let's figure it out. But yeah, it's hard to do that for ourselves sometimes. It's really hard to be our own hype person.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'd say that to myself. Oh, what would, if you were your own best friend, what would you say? But it's still, those voices in your head are a real bitch sometimes.
Yeah.
That's, that gets you. But do you think that's like a thing that's specific to women, or do you think that's just like a human thing?
Well, hell if I know. I've never been in a man's head, thank goodness. Although I often ask my husband, what are you thinking? And he's like, nothing. So maybe
Nothing.
I don't know. My mind's rolling 100 miles an hour. I don't know what goes on in there.
Yeah.
I think it's a human thing. I do, especially having talked
Mhm.
to my dad about like his career and those kind of paths. I think we all have those fears. I think we all have those doubts. I think we all self-check, right? And we should. It's survival. It's a survival
Yeah.
instinct to not be irresponsible, and we need to be mindful of that. But I think something that changed for me is I read a book called Soundtracks by John Acuff, and it's really great for overthinkers. Just a really good book. It talks about all these different strategies to rewrite the soundtracks that you're telling yourself. And I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure it was in that book. One of the tips was any amount of airtime you give to the negative, what if this happens, what if that happens, you need to give the same amount of time to the positive, if not more. Bonus
Good
points for doing
advice.
more, right? But
Yeah.
I really found that like a lot of this mental work was a byproduct of the noise is going to be there, the doubt's going to be there, the imposter syndrome is going to be there, the what if it doesn't work is always going to happen, but then set a timer and go big on the dream for 15 minutes if you just spiraled for 15, right? What if it works out? What would that look like? How exciting would that be? Who would you bring along the journey with you? And let that be equal amount of fuel because sometimes it's just we give the vote to the loudest voice, but we haven't given both sides the opportunity to have the debate, right? If you think back to school when there was debate, right? One person said one side of the argument and the other said the other. We don't often give ourselves a fair debate,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
That's so true. That's so true. And I've been told my whole life, you're like, oh, you're so negative. And I'm just like, no, I'm just real. I'm trying to
You're a
think of
realist.
all,
That's what
I'm
people
a
call
realist.
themselves
That's what
with.
everyone always says. Like, I'm such a stereotype. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm just trying to be real. I don't want to be
Yeah.
overly optimistic and then be disappointed. So it's
Yeah.
like the fear of disappointment is really what that is. I feel like I'm getting better at it now. But
Yeah.
I was so stubborn my whole life. I'm like, no, I'm not.
You
Yeah.
just have to think, okay, what if it does fall apart? What's the worst that could happen? For me, it was like, I'll just go get another job. Like, it's not the end of the world. There's always a plan B
Yeah.
if that helps your logical brain ease into these more chancy
Mhm.
and more risky things that we have to do.
Yeah. Yep. And it comes back to me for, like I said at the beginning, I want to have it all. I want to be the businesswoman and I want to have a successful career and have this, all of my employees and everyone's happy. And I also want to have a family and I want to be able to go on vacation. And that's a lot of freaking expectations for one person.
Yeah. And I think we can have it all, maybe
Mm.
just not all at the same time.
Yeah.
And we can't do it all. And that
Yeah.
was like a mindset shift for me is I was trying to do it all, which is
Hmm.
impossible, right? Like I can't start a business, raise kids, do dishes, clean laundry, pay bill. Like it's just
Yeah.
life is a lot, right? And so you have to find your people that help you. Like I'm very fortunate I have a very supportive spouse. And at any time, if I'm like, hey, I need you to pick up in this area because work's a little heavy right now, he jumps right in. And then I will at some point be like, okay, I'm taking advantage of this now. And I'll be like, hey, do you need me to take some more stuff back on? And we'll share that responsibility of the kids and the house and all of that stuff, depending on what season we're in professionally. And then also relying on friends, which I was so bad at this early in parenting. I just felt like it was Sean and I's responsibility to do everything with these kids. And we
Yeah.
fought so hard to have them, which is another story. And I felt like it was like, I don't know, a cop out if I had a babysitter or I put them off to a grandparent or anything like that. Like I felt like we had to just have them all the time. But now I've got my little tribe of people where we've got dance mom support that do carpools and pickups and share snack duty, all of those things. And it's good. You need that in your life. You need a village. And we've gotten out of a village type society. And I think it's really struggling and it's giving us that pressure of we have to do it all, where over all of history, most people lived more communal and they had more support systems. And unfortunately, the average person doesn't have that. I have no parent that lives nearby. My parents are 4 hours away. Sean's parents are 8 hours away. I don't have any brother or sister around the corner in the street. Like when I grew up, my grandparents on both sides were within walking distance of my house. I had an
Mhm.
aunt and uncle that lived next to a grandparent, right? Like we had this sense of community and everybody on the street knows like you just don't have that anymore. And what that ends up doing is putting an enormous burden on us, on top of us saying, hey, you know, we want to be career ladies too, and we want to do all this other stuff. And you're right, it's a little bit of an unrealistic expectations at time, but I think it's better instead of thinking about trying to get a balanced day, because I think that's a freaking joke. I think instead what we need
Yeah.
is a suitable season, right? So what's the season of
Mhm.
life calling for? So like for summer, I slowed down on my podcast, right? I didn't take on any extra projects, like side projects outside of my job because I wanted to do my job and I wanted to spend time with my kids. That was my summer season. But I'm not kidding you, the week before school started, I'm recording podcasts, I'm making posts. I'm like, let's go. I'm back to it. And I
Yeah.
switched my energy and my season. And I think that's how we can have it all if we think of it more as like
Mhm.
seasonal shifts. And like you said,
Yeah.
giving your husband the encouragement to take a couple months off. It's just a season. It's not a permanent
Yeah.
forever thing. Like we deserve that for ourselves to give ourselves grace in these different times that show up for us where we need to be more present somewhere else for just a little while.
Yeah. Building that community is so important. I had no idea when I had kids how important that was. And I thank God every day for my husband because he's so supportive and he's always, oh yeah, like I'll take that. I travel a lot. So like he's always
Yeah.
taking on both roles while I'm gone and
Yeah.
so grateful for him. But having that like network of people is just such a life upgrade when you find them because you can take a little bit and let someone else help you,
Yeah.
but it's also you have to give yourself permission to do that
Yes.
because like even now like I have such a great support system, but I was supposed to send out a newsletter, an email yesterday, and it did not go out, and I'm like kicking myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna know it was late, and it's okay. No
Yeah.
one cares.
Yeah.
It's probably no one is even gonna notice.
Yeah.
So allowing yourself, I love that like you took time away from like your podcast and everything, and then you pick it up and
Yeah.
everyone's excited to continue listening, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, nobody was like banging down my doors. A couple people were like, "Are you okay?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, But at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
it's a give. And my friend Cassie encouraged me this because in the beginning of the year, I'm like, this is a lot with being back at work. Do I need to keep doing all this stuff? And she's like, do you love it? I said, I love it. She's like, well, it's a give. So you give when you have extra. When you have extra time, you give. And I think sometimes that's where we get hung up that we feel like if I say yes to this thing, I've got to say yes to it for forever. You don't need to be a PTA mom every year, but maybe you want to do it this year. You don't need to be snack mom for the sport thing every week, but maybe you'll do it one weekend a month, right? Just pick and
Mhm.
choose what feels right for you and don't do it out of guilt or I should or what's this other mom going to think? The other mom's probably just going to be jealous if you get out of it somehow. So don't beat yourself up over it.
So true. I think you do a really good job of being authentic in those moments.
Yeah, it's so funny. So early in my career as a leader, I took a vacation and I put an out of office that said something silly. Oh, I'm playing with my kids, which I do every time I go on out of office. Even if company has like a standard one, I'm like, no, I'm going to do something like fun and creative
Cute.
because why not? Life's too short. But I did something like that and I did not respond to anything. Let me rephrase this. This was not early in my career. This was early on my first time taking a vacation as a leader. I worked for a company that did not promote taking vacations, and then I worked for one that did. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a real vacation. I'm going to sign out, do all the things. So I did all the things. And I was supported, thankfully, by a boss to do that. I cannot tell you the amount of people on my team. I would say probably 75% of the team like reached out to me when I got back and said it was so nice to see you take a real vacation because it
Mhm.
set a tone that we were allowed to too.
It's so powerful.
And I was like, oh, I was just doing it for me. But having thought about early in my career, I didn't
Yeah.
feel like I could take a vacation because my bosses didn't. My bosses were working from cruise ships. My bosses were working from the beach. My bosses were in
Mhm.
Disney trying to do, and it set the expectation that you're supposed to work during vacation. And that little act of me protecting my time for me and being bold and giving myself permission ended up giving my whole team permission to do the same. So I think there is a little bit of like swagger in just being
Mhm.
honest with where you're at and what you can and can't do.
Yeah. You led by example in that moment and everyone else. So I think it's easy for us to feel like we have to do things, but it's also easy, I think, for us to be like, I can't. I'm on vacation, so I can't. And I think there's seasons in life where you are working from vacation and that's what you have to
Yeah,
do. Like especially starting a business, like there's a hustle that a lot of
yeah,
people don't want to do, they don't do, and
yeah,
that's fine. But if you are in the season where you are hustling and you're working on vacation, that's okay. But make sure that there's also a season where you're not and working
yeah.
towards that.
Have to
Important.
put that date on a calendar. I can't
Mm,
stress this enough. So like in sales world, like if we have a new community opening, it's like all hands on deck. Everybody's working a lot.
yeah.
There's not a lot of please don't take vacation. And we're probably gonna be calling you on your day off, right? Because it's just like a 60 to 90 day, just heavy focus to get this community off the ground. And if a salesperson is in that, they understand it and the leader understands it. But I always tell them, what's our back to normal day?
That's
And
really
let's
good.
put it on the calendar. Okay. So I know you're gonna come in on your days off. I know you're not gonna take vacation. Like, when is our back to normal day? And do you have something booked, even if it's just one extra day off for you to recoup after that and to reset? Because otherwise, this is where we lead into burnout, right? Where we take that season and we turn it into 6 months or we turn it into a year and we never reset, we never level set after that. So I think it's important to say, okay, I'm going to do this, be intentional about it. I'm starting a business. I did this when I left my job. I was like, 1 year, we're not doing family vacations. We're not spending money on anything crazy. And that was a sacrifice, but that was an intentional sacrifice. But then I'm like, but on this date, the day I went back to corporate, what did I do? I booked Disney. I was like, we're doing Disney kids. But you have to do that, right? You have to be intentional about it, but put a date on it. What's the lever? When are we gonna switch back?
That's really good advice too, because that also gives like your spouse or whoever is like there supporting you, it gives them kind of an end date too. Because like what you said earlier, I sometimes feel guilty for my husband and be like, okay, you should go out or something. You should do something because I've taken so much. But that kind of gives everybody like a timeline on what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would love to, in all my episodes, I like to give, okay, these are like some actionable takeaways or like some tips. So I would love to hear your tips for this whole topic, either if setbacks or like work-life balance, or even reframing things mentally. So what would you tell all of our listeners today?
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question.
I
I
know it's
would just
big.
say, yeah, I would say that you really need to hold on to optimism. When you're in these hard times, the first thing you can do is adopt that mindset of, I may not see it now, but this is going to serve me. And that can allow you to show up differently instead of seeing it as the end of something or a finality to it, right? Hey, this is leading me somewhere else. Even now, being back in home building, the market's difficult right now. It's challenging. And I'm like, oh gosh, what did I do? Like, how am I back in this? It's such a hard
Yeah.
time. But honestly, I'm also thinking like how great that I'm getting to experience this and how is this going to let me serve somebody else that might be going through this same thing down the road. Whatever I figure out now, I'm going to be able to pay that forward to somebody else. So I think you have to have that mindset of there's a lesson in here, and that's one of the big parts of my slingshot method is you have to take a step back. You need to figure out what lesson is there for me. What questions do you have to ask? What do you have to hear so that you can learn and grow from this experience? Identify if it still matters to you, if this is something worth pursuing. We've all climbed a ladder and got to the top and been like, "Ooh, this was against the wrong building." So make sure whatever you're pursuing, that it is something that's still important to you. It's not just out of pressure or those shoulds like I talked about. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I can't stress that enough. Isolation's very detrimental when you're in a hard time. And that could be a therapist, that could be a friend, that could just be somebody who's maybe just 10 steps ahead of you in the same journey. Find those people. If I've learned anything over the last few years, is that people are mostly kind, generous, and they want to help and serve. And it wasn't until I really started trying to intentionally grow my network and really reach out to people that I realized, hot damn, I'm not alone. And these other people have gone through the same thing, and we're going to figure this out together. And I have this beautiful network of people because I didn't stay isolated, sad, and lonely by myself during these hard times. And also, when you feel ready and when it's not fear-based, take quick action. When you're having a good day and you're like, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling optimistic, and you've got good vibes, right? This happens, especially ladies. We got this lovely like cycle thing where sometimes the world's on fire and other days we're like, this is amazing. Anna, this is amazing day. Take action, do something. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be even really small
Mhm.
step, but it will snowball. And I don't think motivation just comes to you. I think motivation comes from action. So even if you can commit to 5 minutes of writing, if that's something you want to work on, or going on LinkedIn and connecting with somebody like Sarah or myself and just saying, hey, ladies, I'm going through this thing too. Any advice for me? Taking action when you feel inspired is going to snowball and finally get you where you want to go.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I would also encourage people to reach out on LinkedIn or
Yeah.
on whatever platform you are, get my email, get my link. Like I love talking to people and offering that support. And I have not met many people that don't and also enjoy that.
Yeah. And if you're going through a hard season, whether it's personally or professionally, reach a hand down and help somebody else up. I think that can go a long way in helping you feel better, is when you realize that you still have something to give from your vantage point and there's somebody else that needs whatever you've got. I know for me that has helped enormously in the past. Whenever I start feeling in a funk, my mom used to do this. She'd be like, we need to go help somebody. Let's go somewhere. Let's do something. And I find myself doing it now. And I think it really does help you just shift that perspective, stop being in your head, stop worrying about you, help somebody else. And that's the best way for you to rise and get to your next level too.
That's so true. Yeah. And it does not take a title to be able to do any of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I always love talking to you. I always love listening to your podcast. You're such an uplifting, bright, happy
Oh,
person.
thank you.
And like even your pictures in your background, you just seem so like bright and lively. And
Can I tell you what this is real quick? This is
yeah,
not
tell me.
my diploma.
Oh,
This is my great grandma's college diploma.
oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Can you believe this? I just hung this today. I had something else here, and this has been sitting in the hallway. And I'm like, listen, if my great grandma can get a degree in 1913 for plain sewing and pattern drafting, I come from a long line of badass women, people. That's a big
That's
deal.
amazing.
That's a big deal from an accredited college. So, yeah,
So
it's my
cool.
inspiration to keep doing and trying because if great grandma could do it, I can do it too.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. I totally just thought that was like your diploma up there.
No, it's so crazy. Yeah, it says 19, she graduated June 12th, 1913.
Wow. That's
Yeah, it's
so
insane.
cool. I'm so nostalgic, and I love like old things and like things that are passed down.
I
Like,
totally stole it from my mom. Sorry, mom. I saw it in the hallway. I'm like, oh, I can I have that? She's sure.
that's so funny. So you guys, if you're listening on the audio podcast, you have had to go over to YouTube now and see this background because it's very cute.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and I hope that you come back. I also hope that you go and find Abby online. Abby, where can they reach out to you? Where can they find your podcast? All the things.
So LinkedIn is a great place to find me and connect. And then you can go to abbycornelius.com to learn more about speaking and workshops. I'm working on an e-course for ladies, so that's exciting. And then you can also access the Rise and Shine podcast there as well.
That's so cool. Yes, definitely head over there. I will put the links in the description box so you can just click right over and follow Abby on LinkedIn. She posts some really great uplifting stuff, and the guests on her podcast are really awesome as well. So do that, everyone. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in our next episode very soon.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.